You're listening to The Briefing, first broadcast on the 2nd of September 2025 on Monocle Radio. The Briefing in association with Addis. Hello and a very warm welcome to The Briefing, broadcasting live from Studio One here at Midori House in London. I'm Chris Chermak. Coming up on today's programme, Thailand is preparing to elect yet another Prime Minister. Monocle's James Chambers, you are in Bangkok. What's the mood over there?
Well, it's my third year in Thailand and we're on to our third Prime Minister, so you could say it's pretty much business as usual.
More from you in just a moment. We'll also hear why US warships are entering the Caribbean, and we're joined by Fernando Augusto Pacheco for a Brazil News Roundup. Faye, what have you spotted?
Hello, Chris. Today marks the beginning of Jair Bolsonaro's trial by Brazil's Supreme Court, plus big changes on Brazil's most popular TV news show.
More from you on all of those, and we'll check in with the Venice Film Festival as well. All that right here on The Briefing with me, Chris Chermak. And we are going to start today's show with Thailand's rolling cast of prime ministers, because negotiations to elect another one will begin in Parliament tomorrow. And here to tell us about it is James Chambers, Monocle's Asia editor, joining us from Bangkok. And James, as you just said there at the top, this isn't necessarily new news for you. Is that how everyone in Bangkok feels?
Well, I mean, you can even see some politicians coming out to kind of reassure the market and investors and international people looking at Thailand that Thailand is very used to this kind of political instability. So it's nothing really to worry about. I think this country knows how to operate without a prime minister and a cabinet in place.
So that's the actual messaging that is going on there, to say don't worry about instability because we know how to manage instability?
That's pretty much it. Although I would say that this particular instability comes at a bit of a crisis point for Thailand. I mean, the economy is pretty much in the toilet. Tourists just aren't coming in the numbers they used to. And of course, there's this recent war with Cambodia. I mean, there's meant to be a ceasefire in place, but the army has just come out today to say that, Cambodia not really abiding by it, and they're still laying landmines and other improvised devices on the Thai border. And one of the soldiers in charge said if they're caught doing that, they'll go home as ghosts. So that's some pretty tough rhetoric. And basically the army's been put in charge of managing all that because there's no prime minister in place. So it's not the best time to be leaderless.
No, so the stakes are clearly high. Tell us then about this special session that is starting tomorrow. I mean, how difficult is it going to be for the kind of fractious parliament to actually agree on a new prime minister?
Yeah, so, I mean, the vote could happen in Parliament this week if the Speaker gets the indication that one of the candidates has enough support to get a majority. And so this week, there's been some kind of frantic negotiations between the two of the main parties, Thai, whose two former prime ministers were removed. The most recent one on Friday. They want to put forward their third candidate to become prime minister, and then Bumjai Thai, who's more of a conservative party, they want to put forward their leader Anutin to be prime minister. Those two parties were leading the original coalition after the most recent election, but they had a falling out, and Bumjai Thai went into the opposition, and so it's at the moment those two look to be in opposition, and so they're both vying for support from the People's Party, who are the main opposition. They're the biggest party. They're the ones who really should be leading the government, but they're the progressives who are very popular with the youth, and they were the ones who kind of Thai dumped in favour of Bumjai Thai, and now both Bumjai Thai and Thai going cap in hand to People's Party, try and get their support. But the People's Party have said very clearly that they don't want to be in government with either of them. They're willing to support any party that will agree to dissolve Parliament within 4 months and call fresh elections. But we're all waiting to see whether the People's Party are willing to back either of those two, Pheu Thai or Bum Jai Thai. They're still having their deliberations today. There's been no clear indication who they will go for, and it's been very divisive inside the People's Party. So, as I said, there could be a vote by the end of this week. We could have a new Prime Minister, or it could drag on, the negotiations could drag on for a few more days or weeks.
And so the People's Party has to make a decision, but linked to that, if I understand you correctly, is this question of whether there would be a fresh round of elections. Would either of the other two parties go for that? Could we have yet another round of elections as well in Thailand in 4 months?
So, I mean, the Pheu Thai party doesn't want fresh elections. I guess that the general feeling here is that, I mean, if and when there's another election, they'll be pretty much wiped out. This is like their last roll of the dice for the Pheu Thai party and the family that control it, the Shinawats, Thaksin. They didn't do very well at the last election, but they still managed to scrape into government. But they haven't come through with the kind of economic growth that Thaksin was famous for. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. It's been quite dismal, and they haven't been able to bring in any of their policies. And of course, they then went ahead and basically sacrificed Thai sovereignty to the Cambodians because of a kind of family arrangement that Thaksin has with Hun Sen. So there's the understanding is Pheu Thai doesn't want an election. They're going to try and cling on to power as long as they can. And so they will be trying to do some, under the table, behind the scenes deals to try and get their third guy into the Prime Minister's seat. The Bum Jai Thai is slightly different. They're probably one of the hot favourites to either lead the next coalition, and there's a high chance that their leader, Anutin, could become the next Prime Minister. So I think they'd be happy either way. I think they'd be happy to continue on in government or go to the country. But I think they're both those parties are afraid of the People's Party because they won big in the last election and they're expected to win even more if and when the country does get to vote again.
Now, James, one other story we wanted to ask you about, because if you do want a distraction from all of this politics in Thailand, at least you have a new mall to go to, although I understand that even that is subsumed by a whole bunch of family intrigue.
Yes, that's right. There's always shopping, and there's always shopping malls to keep us distracted here in Thailand. Thailand over the last decade or two has seen, or Bangkok, I should say, has seen a huge number of new developments. We just had one Bangkok open recently, which is basically a mini city. But in the next few days, on Thursday, we will see the opening of Dusit Central Park, which is a new shopping mall that overlooks Lumpini Park, which is basically like the Central Park of Bangkok. Now it's prime real estate. It's one of the central kind of business districts of Thailand, and it came together as a partnership between one of the oldest luxury hotels in Thailand, the Dusit Thani flagship, and the biggest shopping retail developer, Central. Those two kind of families came together to redevelop the site of the old Dusit Thani flagship hotel. The hotel opened last year, and now it's the kind of shopping side that's about to open. But behind the scenes, the family that control the Dusit Thani have been squabbling about who owns what. The second generation are fighting over who should run the company, and there's been a suggestion that the Central group are trying to kind of use this opportunity to take over Dusit Thani. Now that's been denied by Central, but it's not quite the kind of mood of partnership and collaboration that they would want to see for the opening of this mega development in Bangkok.
Well, James, aside from the political intrigue, we'll have to get your take once that mall has opened. Bring you back on the show for more. James Chambers, Monocle's Asia editor in Bangkok. Thank you very much for joining us. And now here's Tom Webb with the day's other news headlines.
Thanks, Chris. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's train has arrived into China before his planned attendance at a military parade marking Japan's surrender in World War II. The event in Beijing is set to be the first time that Kim, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and Russian President Vladimir Putin have gathered at the same venue. The leaders of France's far-right National Rally Party, Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella, are to meet the Prime Minister, François Bayrou, in Paris. It comes as he tries to get support in Parliament for his proposals to cut France's deficit and survive a confidence vote on the 8th of September. Abandoned luggage is becoming a growing problem at airports across Japan. Passengers dumping their suitcases after finding they exceed the measurements for carry-on luggage have been taking up dwindling airport storage spaces. Each item also has to be assessed as a terrorist threat. Kansai Airport has reported a record 816 dumped suitcases in the last year. Those are the day's headlines. Back to you, Chris.
Thanks very much, Tom. Amazing how many suitcases are left at Japanese airports. Well, it's time now for a roundup of news out of Brazil. And for that, I am joined by Fernando Augusto Pacheco, Monocle's senior correspondent. And Faye, I understand, first of all, that congratulations are in order.
Yes, indeed, Chris, because Iago Dora, which is a great Brazilian surfer, he literally just won the World Championship in Fiji. And I'm so happy because I've been telling everyone that Brazil is not just about football. We are all about surfing as well. In the last
like the other World Cup for Brazil.
Yes, in the last 11 years, we won 8 of those championships. Iago for the first time, but we also have Gabriel Medina, Felipe Toledo, Ítalo Ferreira. And you know what? I'm not a good surfer, but I find it such a beautiful sport. I wish I was a surfer sometimes, you know?
How can you not be a surfer? I feel like this is a little like, as you know, myself as an Austrian, if I weren't a skier, like there are certain things you just have to do.
Yes, but you know, I'm not very good with my coordination, but I am an admirer. I think that counts as well.
Admirer counts. Okay, you can watch from a bit afar. Well, we do have some other stories as well. One that we have talked about a few times on this show, of course, Jair Bolsonaro, the former president. His trial starts today. What's the mood like over there?
And that's in all the front pages today. Indeed, today is the first day of the official trial by the Supreme Court. And if Bolsonaro is convicted, that'll be the first time that a former Brazilian president will be convicted for trying to plan a coup d'etat, which that's what he's been accused of. And the sentence, I believe, will come out on the 12th of September. So we still have 2 weeks to go with all the deliberations. And, you know, most people are saying that probably he'll be found guilty. But we are not sure at the moment. I think this might take even longer than we expect. But all Brazilians are paying very close attention to it.
Is it like a media circus kind of thing over there? Would you imagine over the next 2 weeks, kind of the ins and outs of the trial?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the first 2 days probably not much will happen. I think it's more, they're probably going to read the deliberations. We're not going to discover anything new in the last 2 days. But by the end of the week, I expect more news to come out of this.
Well, we will be talking with you more as things develop out of that. But to move on to some other stories you brought for us, Fernando, we're going to start with kind of travel, aviation. There's good news and bad news, if I understand this correctly, out of Brazil. Lots of people flying, but less routes to fly to.
Yes, it's a very weird story. So Brazil is becoming less connected with our flights, but at the same time, we have record demand and record number of airline passengers internally, domestically. You know, I just came back from Brazil. I traveled to São Luís in the state of Maranhão in the north. The airport is always busy. The flights are always fully occupied. And it's true. I think the occupancy rate of seats is 86%, which is a very high number. But our 3 airlines, Azul, Latam, and Gol, they're going through financial problems. All of them at the same time.
Despite the high demand.
Despite the high demand. And I did find it a bit confusing, but I was reading about it. One of the main reasons as well is the fuel prices and the rise of the dollar, because a lot of the things that they have to buy, you know, it's connected to the dollar in a way. And at the moment, some of them, for example, Azul, they're going to a reconfiguration of the routes. So they're having to cancel some routes, especially to smaller towns in the interior of Brazil. And the problem with that, Chris, that some of those cities, they'll have no commercial connections.
This is their connection to the outside world.
Exactly. So hopefully this will change in the next years. And one thing that I also find very problematic in Brazil is that we only have those 3 airlines. That's it. Of course, we have the for private jets as well. But I think Brazil needs more competition on that level, because tickets, when you are in Brazil and you want to buy an internal flight, it's actually very expensive. Generally, sometimes it's cheaper to go to Argentina or even go to Miami than going to the northeast of our own country. So, yeah, it's a success story, but also there's a lot of issues going on there as well.
Well, finally, Fernando, we wanted to talk about a sort of legend in Brazil. This role of the TV news host, the newscaster. I mean, I'm very familiar with this from the United States as well, as some of the big names over the years retired, whether it was Peter Jennings, Tom Brokaw, those sort of people. It's a very distinguished role, and you have one in Brazil as well who is now retiring you wanted to talk about.
And we feel an emotional connection to that almost. So William Bonner, he's been the host of Jornal Nacional, which is the main TV news show in Brazil. I think still attracts a huge audience. And he's been there for 29 years. That's been a record for the show as well, which is celebrating 56 years this year. And, I say retire. He's retiring from Jornal Nacional, but I think he's going to take a little break, and next year he will host a weekly news show called Globo Repórter. So he's still going to be around, just not daily in our TVs. And I have to say, because there is a music, the theme song for Jornal Nacional, I think it's one of the most beautiful theme songs of a news show that I've ever seen. And we know that after that, you're going to see William Bonner's very dashing face. He looks very handsome and quite serious as well. But let's have a listen to the beautiful song, very synthy. It's so beautiful. It's very, I don't know, very 70s. It makes me think of space,
I feel like most of these sort of newscaster theme songs have a certain 70s feel to them, so I think this one fits into there, but it is very nice.
And one thing I have to say about William Bonner, as I said, he's a very serious man, but in recent years, since the pandemic perhaps, he became a little bit more emotional in his delivery. He connects more with the public. For more recently, he's been to the south of Brazil when we had a problem with the floods, and he really connected to the people. Sometimes you can see in his face that he was feeling the emotion. So I think he changed how a host should behave as well. So before, Jornal Nacional was very serious, very straight to the point, just a normal delivery. It did change in the last 5 years.
And it sounds like he might continue changing with his weekly show. We wish him good luck with that. Fernando Augusto Pacheco, Monocle's senior correspondent, thank you very much for joining us. You're listening to The Briefing on Monocle Radio. And now here on The Briefing, as if there weren't enough conflicts in the world, the United States over the past week has sent a series of Navy ships to the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean, which was the subject of this week's Foreign Desk. And here to tell us about it is Anita Riota, Monocle's Foreign Desk producer. Anita, you just go looking for conflicts, I feel, at this point. I mean, Gaza, Ukraine, China, it's not enough.
It's unfortunately quite easy these days. And so we do try to take a tactful, analytical look at these major conflicts and hopefully bring our audiences a show that they are not getting elsewhere. This week, we did turn our eye to Venezuela. Like you said, the U.S., the Trump administration, has sent a pretty significant naval force towards Venezuela. This comes amid rising tensions between Maduro and Trump. Trump has put a $50 million sort of bounty on anyone for anyone that could help lead to Maduro's arrest.
Yes, I remember Andrew trying to actually get us in on that bounty by naming the address in what we learned.
Look, I would not say no to any cut of $50 million. So, if I'm his producer, I'm certainly getting a bit of that. No, I think. So in this episode, we explored whether this naval fleet that is arriving to Venezuelan shores is an example of gunboat diplomacy, or if a skirmish really is possible, if something more serious could break out. We investigated, how this specific episode fits into the U.S.'s historic inability to leave South American countries alone, and really how after decades of being in power, stealing an election last time around, Maduro has remained in power. So we looked at all of those elements, and one of our guests that we had on, Oscar Guardiola Rivera, professor of international law and affairs at Birkbeck College, made the argument that Trump's move actually could be counterintuitive and play into Maduro's hands. Have a listen.
In the last days, in fact, in Venezuela, because of the threats made by the Trump administration, because of the deployment of U.S. warships in the Caribbean, Maduro, who is not recognized by most governments, including its leftist neighbors, as a legitimate president, has been able to rally popular support. We have seen images of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people across Venezuela lining up, widows, retirees, to join the civilian militias that Hugo Chavez had already set up. And this is the huge difference between a case such as that of Panama and Venezuela. Panama is an isthmus. Venezuela is a huge country. No doubt if Trump wanted to put troops on the ground, they will take Caracas in a week. But after that, you will be looking at no less than 20 or 30 years guerrilla warfare in a huge country, spilling over the borders of Colombia and Brazil. That would be a huge mess, which is why most analysts do not believe that Trump is actually threatening with invasion and or that would come to happen. But nevertheless, the threats, the rhetoric, the mobilization of troops actually only benefits Maduro further. And it is really paradoxical because the U.S. Trump administration has been very ambiguous when it comes to Venezuela. If you look at Venezuela news portals, you see the news about U.S. threats, and then the next news is, but oil exploration is and exploitation is getting better because U.S. oil companies are back buying and refining Venezuelan oil. So that kind of contradiction is what makes this event so peculiar, so suspicious, but also precisely the kind of thing that Trump has accustomed us to.
Oscar Guardiola Rivera there. And Anita, was that the general sense, is it fair to say, from this show that this is more likely to be sort of threats from the US than an actual skirmish developing?
Look, there was not a consensus on exactly how seriously we should take this show of force. But I mean, you can't really ever discount anything from the Trump administration. They are consistently ramping up the rhetoric against Venezuela and against Maduro. So now, having escalated it to this point, maybe if Trump sees that this is actually empowering Maduro, does he think, well, now I have to strike to sort of curtail that? I unfortunately don't think we can seriously take a military intervention off the table.
Anita Ryota, Monocle's foreign desk producer, thank you very much for joining us. That show is out now. You can listen on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. This is The Briefing. You are back with The Briefing, and finally for today, the Venice Film Festival is underway, and here to tell us about it is our favorite roving film critic, Karen Krasanovic, who joins us now from Venice. Although, Karen, I have to say, surely nothing in Venice can beat seeing Jaws in IMAX here in the UK on Friday.
That is true, actually. And I did miss a couple days of the festival to see the 50th anniversary of IMAX Jaws. And I think there were some other people there as well that experienced the beauty of the largest mouth on Earth.
There may have been a few of us over there, yes, and we were very excited about it. It was fascinating.
There were a handful. But I have to say, weirdly, it is now second in the U.S. box office again.
Amazing.
Second only to Weapons, which is just goes to show you the compelling nature of the beautifully told story. It really can't be bettered. Although we could try Sharknado.
Well, yeah, I'm not as convinced on that one, but the power of Jaws is very much enduring. But that said, you did finally make it to Venice, having delayed a little bit in order to see Jaws. What have you been seeing there? I think we're going to start with a big blockbuster.
Oh, I'm so excited. I don't know where to start. Well, Catherine Bigelow is finally back in the cinema with an enormous production about nuclear war, believe it or not. It's called The House of Dynamite. It's 112 minutes long, so it's not too bad. And it's got amazing stars. Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, Gabriel Basso, Jared Harris, Tracy Letts. And it's a story told about nuclear warfare. If a missile was fired, they didn't know where it was coming from because its origin was misconstrued, and it's aiming for an American city. What would happen? And this is told in a variety of like three different ways. And it's absolutely riveting. And it's very upsetting, actually, but it's a beautifully made film. And it's very, very Catherine Bigelow. It's very tight on dialogue. She expects the audience to be smart. You don't feel that things are over-explained. They're just explained enough. But there's a great beauty here that even within the football, which is all of the nuclear stuff that the president carries around, and the Beast, which is, of course, his big car that's bomb-proof and everything else, it comes down to human emotions. And that's what I found. The House of Dynamite. Please go and see it as that's crowning glory.
Okay, so House of Dynamite is the sort of beautiful but really a downer from what I understand you're describing there. We're talking nuclear warfare. It shakes you up a little bit.
It is upsetting. It opens your eyes and makes you think. And I think that's pretty good. And the wonderful thing was that she says in the statement here, I grew up in an era when hiding under your school desk was considered the go-to protocol for surviving an atomic bomb. Well, I think, yes, so many of us, perhaps you remember duck and cover, possibly not. But,
I didn't quite get to that level. But yeah, I hope it doesn't come back to that in schools and learning that for our kids. But once you've seen that and you're on this serious downer reflecting on the possibility of nuclear war, where do you go next to get a little bit of an uplift?
Well, it's a great thriller. I don't want to say it's a downer because then nobody will go and see it. Well, how about this film, the new Gus Van Sant? He hasn't made a movie, 7 years? Or we can do fashion. I don't know where to start. We could do Sofia Coppola talking about Marc Jacobs. No, let's stick with Gus Van Sant. He's come back finally after making television with Dead Man's Wire. Now, this sounds like a downer too, where a disgruntled employee and a disgruntled mortgage client goes back to his bank in the mid-'70s, based on a true story, in Indianapolis, and rigs a shotgun to his mortgage broker's son's neck and says, "I want justice." And this carries on and he says, if you move, I will shoot your head off. And it's wired around his neck. So it's one of those alarming sort of situations. But Gus Van Sant looks at this film takes this story, and it's very logical, very funny, and really very human because it's in the 70s, and the police can just drive up to where it's happening. There's no control or anything like that. People know, well, I know that guy with holding the gun. He comes to my bar, and it's very sort of very, that's Tony. It's very, very warm and also very alarming.
Warm and alarming at the same time. That is also quite a combo. I mean, is this shades of, I have Falling Down in my mind. I remember that from back in the 90s with Michael Douglas.
Thank you. It is, but it's slightly lighter than that, I have to say, because of the era it's set in, and also because Indianapolis is a very, very small town at that. Well, not small town, but small city. It's got Bill Skarsgård, and it's also got Coleman Domingo, a wonderful DJ, and it's got Al Pacino and Carrie Elwes. So that's a really good one. That's 105 minutes. So don't worry about the length there. How much time do we have, Chris?
We don't have too much longer, but let's go for the fashion one as well, just to lift people up a little bit. Let's talk about Marc Jacobs and Sofia Coppola.
Well, we could, but I kind of want to say go and see Ozon has done, the French director Francois Ozon has done L'Étranger, The Stranger, based on Albert Camus' book. And it's wonderful, and it's got a new star in Benjamin Voisin, who's actually won several awards in France for his acting, but he's gorgeous. And go and see this. This too is upsetting, but it's beautiful. Okay, and now we'll go back to
there were too many upsetting films there, Karen. We need the happy one at the end. Come on, give us Mark by Sofia.
Marc Jacobs and his personal friend, Sofia Coppola, have a look at how wonderful he is and all of his creations. And it really is a delight. It's really fun. If you like Marc Jacobs or fashion, this is wonderful. It's distributed by A24. And it's really is great fun. It's 97 minutes long, so you don't have to worry. You can go out shopping afterwards. But the music's great, and it's just wonderful fun. And there's all sorts of people that you want to see, like Anna Wintour and everybody. So everybody's in it, but it's lovely, slight, and fluffy and cute.
Everybody's in it, and leave time for the shopping afterwards. Karen Krzanovich, film critic in Venice, thank you very much for joining us. We'll have more from you throughout the week. That's all the time we have, though, for this edition of The Briefing. It was produced by Tom Webb. Our researcher was Henry King, and our studio manager was Elliot Greenfield. The Briefing is back tomorrow at the same time. I'm Chris Termack. Goodbye, and thanks for listening.